Hello everyone, my name is Matt, and there's this general perception of PC gaming being super expensive to get into, which yes, you can spend thousands of dollars on a system, but the reality is that getting into PC gaming can be a lot cheaper than many people expect. Because of this, every once in a while I like to build an ultra budget gaming PC to show that if you put in enough time, effort, and research, you can put together a relatively competent gaming system for surprisingly cheap. Recently, I decided to give myself the challenge to put together a gaming PC for the low price of $100. The only thing not included in this budget is tax. To build a system this cheap, I might have been able to go the custom route, buying each part individually, but the reality is the best way to go about this is to buy an older base system and upgrade it to fit my needs. This also gives me the added benefit of being able to sell off the extra parts that I don't need from the base system, effectively giving me more room in the budget while still keeping the net cost at or below $100. So with a basic plan in place, the first order of business was to find a base system. For a very long time, the meta was to get a second-gen Intel-based PC with an i5 or i7, but for modern games this isn't really a viable solution any longer. With that being said, there are now a number of 6th and 7th gen Intel systems, along with some earlier gen Ryzen PCs popping up on sites like eBay for extremely low prices. You can definitely look locally for deals, but I decided to mainly use eBay as they have really solid buyer protection, which can save you in instances of scams or misleading listings. After some initial searching, I narrowed my sights on a 6th or 7th gen Intel i5 based system, with other qualifiers being that it needed to use standard ATX power connectors and use a full-size case because slimline PCs like this example shown here can't accept normal-sized GPUs. So after a fair bit of looking, I stumbled upon this listing for an HP ProDesk 400 G3. It checked all the boxes, having a 6th gen i5 CPU, a good amount of RAM, compatibility with full height graphics cards, and after googling the motherboard, I also found that it used standard ATX connectors. The price was $35, buy it now or best offer, so I ended up offering $30, which luckily was accepted, and with another $25 going to shipping, it meant the base system was taking up a little over half the budget at $55 in total. After submitting payment, about a week later this package landed on my doorstep with no noticeable exterior damage, which was nice to see. Opening it up, I was greeted with a ton of bubble wrap, along with the system itself wrapped in even more bubble wrap, and the only other item included in the box was a power cable. Even before unwrapping the PC, I could tell this was very much a used system with a number of scratches and imperfections. Taking a look at the outside, there was definitely a good amount of dents and scratches, but nothing looked heavily damaged, which was nice to see. Opening it up, I found a moderately dusty system, and at first glance, everything looked okay. I was excited to start hunting down upgrades to turn this into a fully fledged gaming PC, but I first needed to confirm it even powers on and works. Plugging it in, I was happy to see it boot up first try, and after a little playing around, I was able to get to the system info page where I was able to confirm the specs of the PC and that it was recognizing all of the hardware. Speaking of specs, now that we know the PC is for sure working, let's now talk about all the parts that came with the base system, along with what's staying and what's going. At the heart of this PC, under this dusty cooler, is the Intel Core i5-6600. This is a quad-core CPU without hyperthreading that released 9 years ago in 2015, but with decent IPC and turbo speeds of up to 3.9 GHz, this is a relatively competent budget gaming CPU, which you'll be able to see in the benchmark section of the video. It also has integrated graphics, which while they won't be necessary in the final system, they were used to check if the system was working and can be nice to have for troubleshooting in the future. This i5-6600 is sitting inside of this boring green OEM HP motherboard, and while it is boring, it does have all the features I need, like 2 DIMM slots, standard ATX power inputs, and a 16x PCIe slot for a graphics card. With that being said, the back I/O is a bit confusing as it has modern niceties like USB 3 and gigabit Ethernet, but it also has ancient ports like serial and PS2 peripheral ports. To cool the CPU is this basic fan heatsink combo, which I did take a few minutes to clean up as it was pretty darn dusty the way I found it. This cooler features a simple all aluminum heatsink with what I believe is a 92mm fan. This isn't anything special, but it does a fine job of cooling the CPU. This PC also included two 8GB sticks of SK Hynix DDR4 memory, which was great because 16GB is the sweet spot for a budget gaming system like this one. Plus, the fact it is two sticks means they should operate in dual channel mode for maximum speed and performance. Unfortunately, these do take up all the available DIMM slots, so future upgrades won't be as easy, but this PC is all about performance now and has very little focus on upgradability. The included power supply, while functional, is a basic OEM HP unit that only was rated for a measly 300 watts of total power output and didn't even have PCIe power cables that are necessary for most graphics cards. The case for this system is a basic looking HP case that is one included exhaust fan along with decent front panel I/O and alright ventilation. The other included parts were a slim disk drive at the front and a PCIe Wi-Fi card at the back. Something also to note is this PC didn't come with any kind of SSD or hard drive. So after taking a look at all the parts, I decided everything was staying with the exception of the power supply, the Wi-Fi card, and the CD drive. While the drive and Wi-Fi card could stay, they were also a potential way of getting more money for the final system, as selling them would give me more room in the budget to buy upgrades with while still staying under the $100 price point. Speaking of upgrades, let's talk about what I needed to buy with the remaining $45 and extra parts for sale or trade. I need to buy a power supply, a graphics card, and storage of some sort, which seems like a lot to get for $45, but I was optimistic that I was going to be able to make it work. After looking around, the first deal I found that could fit into the budget was for a 500 watt FSP power supply on eBay for $16.25 with free shipping. This was a pretty solid deal in my opinion, as power supplies are kind of pricey right now. FPS is a very reputable company, and while it doesn't say it on the label, googling the model number shows this is actually an 80+ bronze rated unit, which is great to see. And while this is non-modular, it does have all black sleeve cables, which isn't necessary but again is nice to have. With a good quality 500 watt power supply, it meant I could power pretty much any GPU within reason, so I started to look at graphics cards for this system. I looked at a bunch of different options, but after searching just the phrase graphics card on eBay, I stumbled upon this absolute gem of a listing. The title said it was quote unquote most likely an NVIDIA GTX 578GB, which as most of you probably know isn't a real card, but looking at the pictures made me think this is probably an AMD 400 or 500 series card like a 470, 570, 480, or even 580. With a current bid price of only $13 with about $6 for shipping, this looked like it might be worth taking a risk on, but there were two giant red flags this listing was waving at me. First of all, this was a new seller with zero feedback, and number two, the description said it was untested. While this does seem risky on the surface, it's not actually at all because of a technicality. See, the GPU is listed as used, which eBay defines as follows. The item has been previously used, the item may have some signs of cosmetic wear, but here's the important part, it is fully operational and functions as intended. This basically means if I receive the item and it's dead, I have a full right to return the item for a refund. If the item was listed in the 4 parts or not working category, this wouldn't apply, but because it is listed as used, it has to fully function no matter what the description reads. So after placing my final bid, the listing ended, and after refreshing the page, I found that I was the winner with a final sale price of $20 and $5.90 for shipping. After patiently waiting, this box arrived at my place and it was time to find out what I got. Opening the box up and pulling out the card, I found this was in fact not a GTX 578GB like the listing stated, and is also not even an RX 578GB. It turns out this is in fact an RX 474GB, which while slightly disappointing, it's not an 8GB 500 series card. A functioning RX 470 for around $25 is an amazing deal in my opinion. But that's the question, does it even work? Plugging it into a test system, I found it did actually power up and display fine, which was great to see. So just to recap, I bought the base system for $55, the power supply for $16.25, and the GPU for $25.90. This means I already spent over $97 out of the $100 total budget, which wasn't great as I still had to figure out storage for this PC. But luckily I still had one out in the form of those unused parts because believe it or not, just this OEM power supply alone regularly sells for over $20. So I went ahead and took photos of and listed the power supply, the Wi-Fi card, and the CD drive on eBay and locally. I also noted in the local listing I'd be willing to trade all three for an SSD. After a few days of getting little to no traction, I did get a message of someone wanting to buy the power supply and Wi-Fi card. He initially offered me $15, but I was able to get him to agree to the price of $20. After selling those two unused parts, I had enough room in the budget to buy the final piece of this $100 gaming PC puzzle, which was this 240GB Team Group Vulkan SSD that I paid $19 for new on Amazon. I would have loved to get a 500+ GB SSD, but that just wasn't possible in this case. So now it's time to see if all these parts actually work together. So I assembled everything back into the case, and after turning it on, I was happy to see it did boot up, and the reason it's giving a post error is because the GPU actually blocks the front panel USB headers, which is disappointing but not the end of the world. So now that I knew everything worked, the only thing left to do was to clean up the cable management, install Windows, and start to test out some games. This final product might not look like much, but I was very excited to see how it would perform against some of today's most popular titles, so without further ado, let's get into the gaming benchmarks. Let's start with something easy to run in the form of the esports game Valorant. I tested at 1080p low settings, and by hopping into a deathmatch, doing this resulted in a solid 181 FPS average with 1% lows of 83. This is good performance in my opinion, especially if you want to play a game like this casually, and it shows that basic esports titles like this and stuff like League of Legends will run just fine on this $100 gaming PC. Next up is Apex Legends, which I again tested at 1080p low settings, and this game's actually pretty well optimized. I went into a team deathmatch and saw a pretty good 99 FPS average with 1% lows of 42. This both looked and felt really good, and I think this is more than enough performance for casual play, which is great to see. Now let's go to Borderlands 3, which is an older AAA title, which I tested at 1080p low settings. Doing this resulted in a 63 FPS average with 1% lows of 40. This was good performance in my opinion, and shows that most older AAA titles should run fine on this $100 PC if you're willing to crank down the settings. Next up is the game I've personally been playing the most recently, which is Elden Ring. I tested this at 1080p low settings, and by first going into a dungeon fight, this is the very fair and balanced dual Crucible Knight fight, which actually ended up producing a 53 FPS average with 1% lows of 35. This was definitely playable in my opinion, but not ideal. Going into the overworld definitely showed a bigger dip in performance, with the FPS going into the 40s and even 30s at times. This is on the edge of what I would consider playable, and I think it's very far from ideal. With that being said, Elden Ring running on a $100 PC is pretty impressive. Next up is Helldivers 2, which I tested at 1080p low settings and by hopping into a random mission. Doing this resulted in a decent 55 FPS average with 1% lows of 23. I think this is fine performance for this game, even if the 1% lows were a little low. Moving on to a more modern AAA title, which is Cyberpunk 2077. I tested this game at 1080p low settings. I started by using the built-in benchmark, which ended up producing an average of 50 FPS with 1% lows of 34. This was decent in my opinion, but I was also interested to see how the system would perform in-game. Driving around fast in the city, I saw the average FPS stay around 44 and the 1% lows stay around 25, which is playable, but I don't think would be ideal for most players. With that being said, being able to run this game at all on a $100 PC is pretty impressive in my opinion. Next up is Rainbow Six Siege, which I tested at 1080p low settings using the built-in benchmark. Doing this resulted in a 161 FPS average with 1% lows of 110. This is solid performance in Rainbow Six and should be enough for casual play. Finally, the game that never seems to run well, let's end things with Fortnite. I tested this game at 1080p in performance mode and played around with everything from high to very low settings, and no matter how low I cranked the textures and other settings, the 1% lows stayed in the mid single digits. The average FPS was fine, staying close to 60 most of the time. With that being said, the abysmal 1% lows made this game stutter a lot and just was not fun to play, which it always blows my mind when Fortnite manages to produce worse performance than a AAA game like Cyberpunk. In terms of temps and noise, both the CPU and GPU stayed in the mid 50s to low 60s most of the time, which was great, and while the PC was audible, it wasn't at all what I would consider loud. All in all, the performance on this $100 PC is pretty darn good in my opinion, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think of it, so let me know in the comments below. Overall, I think this build challenge was an absolute success and shows that if you're willing to deal hunt, you can put together a decent system for extremely cheap. So yeah guys, I think this wraps this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more PC and tech related content in the future. And as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.